Hey guys, so I'm back after another week of absence. It was crazy. I was extremely sick, under the weather. Like I couldn't move for a very long time. I had a very serious flu. I don't know. I think it's going around. I think a lot of people are actually suffering from something like this. So please be safe and medicate yourself and make sure that you all stay strong because it really almost that put me out completely. I was in like a weird space. I couldn't do anything, and my voice was gone for like almost 3 days. So just be careful out there, guys, and stay safe. But we are back again, and we're back. And cricket knows how to welcome me back to the space. Today we're going to be discussing the Proteas squad versus Australia, so they know exactly how to bring me back straight into the action. So we're going to be discussing that on today's show, going in depth. I've got an audio file of Rob Walter that I want to play for you guys, so that we can also discuss that in depth to see what his reasons are behind certain selections. And then we're going to go into depth into the squad. I'm going to bring on a guest on the show as well to discuss it with me. And we can go into depth about that too. There's also a little story that I would like to read to you guys out a little bit later that broke about fitness and the fitness changes that are going to be happening again. And we're going to discuss that as well a little bit later on the show if there's still time. We're first going to focus on the Proteas versus Australia squad, and then we'll get into that new story. Otherwise, we'll do that on tomorrow's show. But before we get going, before we get started, there's a couple of things I please want you guys to do. First and foremost, subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell for all future videos, please. Also, subscribe to the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. That is the latest issue. We put a lot of effort into this. The future is now, is what we spoke about with regards to the certain types of players that won at the CSA Awards. You could really tell that it's a new era. In the past couple of CSA awards, we were seeing the same people winning awards, and this time around, we can see that we are looking at the new era now with the players that have won particular awards. So please go and download that issue. It's 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. We're also going to need your help, guys, please, with regards to the Patreon account. I don't know if you guys know, but we do have a Patreon that's active. That's how you guys can keep us doing what we are doing today. So the link is on the screen as well as in the description. Also, don't forget to smash that like button, comment, and share. Okay, so without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. I am looking forward to discussing this with you guys. Try to keep your comments for after I've discussed so I can actually read them out on the show. Otherwise, I'm going to miss all the ones that have been going into the live chat before the show started. But let's get straight into the show. Very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host Khalid Moeddin, and today we're going to be discussing the Proteas T20 and ODI squad for the Australia series. As you can see over here, we have the story up on the website for you guys to go read, but I'm going to go through it with you guys so that we can just give you a quick update onto what is happening. So Cricket South Africa has today named the squads for the White Ball Tour against Australia. Momentum, Multiply Titans, and former S under 19 batter Dewald Brevis earns his maiden call up to both the T20 international and one day international squads. The 20-year-old made a name for himself as the leading run scorer at the ICC under 19 Men's Cricket World Cup in January 2022 with 506 runs, the most by any batter in a single edition of the tournament. The right-hander has since gone on to impress in T20 leagues around the world and currently holds the record for the highest individual domestic T20 score in South Africa, 162 of 57 balls, which he struck during last season's CSA T20 Challenge. He also enjoyed success in the recent SAA tour to Sri Lanka, where he hit 71 ball 98 in the first unofficial 50-over match. Joining Brevis in the T20I squad for the first time are his Titans teammates Darwin Ferreira and Gerald Coetzee. The latter could add to his Test and ODI caps if selected, as well as Dapperbed Warriors batter Matthew Brzezinski. Keshav Maharaj has been included for the second and third T20Is, as well as the ODI squad, as the spinner continues his comeback from a ruptured left Achilles tendon, which he suffered during or sustained during the Betway Test Series against West Indies in March. Quinton de Kock, Heinrich de Klaassen, David Miller, Heinrich Nokia, and Kagiso Rabada are rested for the three-match KFC T20I series and will return for the five-match Betway ODI series. The 15-player squad for the World Cup will be announced on the 5th of September. So you guys that have been asking about that. And then Rob goes on to say a couple of things over here. You guys can read that on the site because we are going to listen to his audio. Just to give you guys the itinerary, we've got the KFC T20I series Wednesday, 30 August at 6 o'clock, South Africa versus Australia in Durban. Then on the 1st of September at 6 o'clock, we play Australia again in Durban. And then on Sunday the 3rd, 2 o'clock, Australia again in Durban. Then in the ODI series, we've got the 7th of September at 1 o'clock. We play them in Bloemfontein. Then Saturday, the 9th of September at 1 o'clock, we play them in Bloemfontein. Then 12th September at 1 o'clock, we play them at Potchefstroom. And then 15th September at 1 o'clock, we play them in Centurion. And then 17th September at 10 o'clock, we play them at the Wanderers Stadium in Johannesburg. So that is the quick summary of everything that has happened. We are going to go in depth when I bring the guest on the show. We're going to go in depth and talk about the specifics of the squad when I show it on the screen. But let me just give you guys a quick overview of what the squad is. So as you can see, the ODI squad for the series is Temba Bavuma as the captain, Theo Brevis, Gerald Coetzee, Quinton de Kock, Bjorn Fortuin, Risa Hendricks, Marco Jansen, Heinrich Klaassen, Sasanda Magala, Keshav Maharaj, Aiden Markram, David Miller, Lungin Gidi, Anik Nokia, Debrey Shamsi, Wayne Parnell, Kagiso Rabada, Tristan Stubbs, Rassie van der Dussen. And the T20I squad is Aiden Markram as captain, Temba Bavuma, Matthew Breetsky, Deval Brevis, Gerald Coetzee, Donovan Ferreira, Bjorn Fortuin, Risa Hendricks, Marco Jansen, Sisanda Magala, Keshav Maharaj, Lungin Gidi, Debrey Shamsi, Tristan Stubbs, Lazard, Williams, and Rassie van der Dussen as well. Cool. So let's discuss. First and foremost, what I want to do is I want to bring my guest on the show so that we can go into the actual audio file. But welcome Lububalo back to the channel again. Is he here? Might be lagging. I think it's lagging. I don't know if it's lagging or not. Seems to be. Okay, you're back. There you go. Welcome back, Lububalo. It's been a long time since we just chatted on the show, and I'm really excited to actually speak to you about everything. How are you doing, bro? First and foremost.
Oh, hey, I'm good, bro. How are you? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I like the new gear, bro. It's nice that you have a mic and you've got headphones and everything.
Yeah, bad. I'm trying.
It's great, bro. Okay, so what we're gonna do first and foremost is I'm going to play you guys the audio file, and we're gonna go through it and discuss any points that we maybe think that makes sense or something that we can speak about. Just to give us an indication of what Rob's thoughts was with regards to everything. So let's start with the audio file to see what his reasons are before we go into the in-depth discussion.
Only got a heel injury that's sidelined for roughly 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Pilasande.
So
we're going to go Dathan, then.
I don't know why it's cut off from the file, but I'm assuming they're talking about Riley Rousseau there, that he's injured and he picked up a heel injury. That's the reason why he's not in the squads. According to what I've seen, some news reports saying about that. So just to let you guys know, I think that's what they spoke about. We missed the actual question. I don't know why, for what reason, but yeah, it's not on the actual audio file. But let's continue.
Okay.
Thank you, Lucy. Hi, Rob. Notable selection there in Deobot Brevis. Just maybe a word on his selection. People in the public domain have been calling for his selection and playing for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously great to have Dewald in the squads. He performed well in Sri Lanka. He's performed well domestically. He's obviously been involved in a number of leagues internationally. So nice to be able to give him an opportunity. As I said, he's one of our up-and-coming youngsters. So we've said we wanted to just broaden our base a little bit, and this Aussie series has been a perfect opportunity to give him a run.
Thanks, Nathan. Ken, then Telford.
Thanks, Lucy. How's it, Rob? Just speaking specifically about the T20 squad, a couple of stalwarts of days gone by returning to the T20 squad in Timber and Rassie. Could you just explain the sort of thinking in going back to them? And also then just on Brevis, there has been some talk about where he best fits into a batting lineup. I know he's opened a lot, but lately he's also batted, more in the middle order. Where do you see him fitting in for the Proteas?
Okay, I'll start with Dewald. For us for now, he's going to be in the middle order. So certainly we've identified him as someone who would like to develop his finishing skills. Obviously, he plays spin very well, so those guys are batting that position. We know they're going to be exposed to the team's best spinners, and then we also wanted to add a little bit of firepower to the death phase of our batting, so we see him filling that role. As for
let's just stop there quickly, Luba, because I think a lot has been said there that is important. We had the idea in the SAA series already that we got that vibe from both coaches that they're looking at Dewald to play in that middle lower order, to give an extra all-rounder option, but also to finish off games like Rob said. Are you happy with that selection with regards to having him come into this team as a new player, playing in that finisher role first, and then maybe working his way as the other players move on, then he can maybe move up the order a little later on?
To be honest, he's still young, so I don't really have much of a problem with it. But I think the other guys that have been playing as finishers in domestic cricket might feel we've been doing this. Why are we not being considered? But I see even Donovan Ferreira still is there, so it's going to be exciting to see how he goes. I think at this point in his career, he's still very young. He can open in innings, he can finish in innings. He has the talent, he has the skill. Also, I heard Rob mentioning something very important there, his ability to play spin. I think in the middle overs, someone like him is definitely going to be crucial to be able just to knock the ball around. Finishing an innings requires a lot of maturity, though, so it's going to be interesting to see how a 20-year-old goes at it.
Yeah, that is 100% true. But it's also good because for me, when it comes to youngsters, especially, I've always mentioned before that South Africa always did a poor job at integrating youngsters into team amongst experienced players. I think when we look at this squad over here, it's the right time to bring in our future talents actually, because they can actually learn off those experienced guys. Are you in favor of that? I mean, you obviously are also a coach. So are you in favor of that? Having integration of youngsters into teams when there's an opportunity. I mean, obviously there's injuries and they're resting players, so it gives them a perfect opportunity for him to learn from the older and the more mature guys in the side.
Yeah, definitely, it's true. I think it's something that we've been failing to do for the last couple of years. If you look at when we had guys like Hash, we had AB, we had JP, but we still didn't bring in a few youngsters to learn from those guys. And when they retired, we were then exposed because we didn't have any youngsters that we sort of brought in and integrated into the team. So I'm happy to see what's happening now, seeing a lot of youngsters being given opportunities. But I would like us to be a little bit patient with the youngsters, because giving a youngster just 2 games and then getting rid of them, I think it's going to mess up their confidence. So the minute you go for a youngster, I think you need to have that conversation with them that we're picking you now, but you are not going to be someone that we're going to play every game. We're just giving you a taste of what international cricket is like and just exposing you to international cricket. Maybe give them 5 games or something, but I think it is important to have that communication with them. I hope they're having that communication with them to say, we are picking you because we're just trying to widen our options for the future. Because I remember when we had guys like AB and them, we never had many youngsters coming through, and later we were exposed.
Mhm. I just want to show the squad to some of the people that are joining the show right now. If you've missed the squads, here are the squads. The ODI squad is on the left, and the T20I squad on the right. There are some surprising additions, but we'll go into a little bit depth again later on, talking about each position, which ones we're happy about, which ones we're not so happy about, whatever the case may be, if we even feel that way. So we will get into that a little bit later on the show, guys, for the ones that did miss the squad itself. But let's go back into Rob's conversation and what he had to say.
Rusty and Timber, I suppose when they were omitted, it was in some cases a performance-based thing, as well as the type of game we wanted to play as a T20 side. But I also was very specific in saying that we did, it's our job to get them back into the team. So we spent, obviously, along with the players themselves, spent a lot of time working on their games. Obviously, Rusty's been off to the Canada GL20. Tim has been working tirelessly back here. And so, with Quinny and Dave and Heinrich Klaassen sitting out, just a perfect, and Riley missing through injury, it's a perfect opportunity to give them a run. And just for them to be able to show that they are able to maneuver their games and grow their games. And I'm excited to see what they have to offer. I think they're both wonderful players, and they've both definitely got the qualities to do it.
Okay, that's another big point. It's Rassi and Temba coming back into the side. I think that's a talking point. I think a lot of people will want to talk about it, particularly in the T20 side, of course. When I initially saw the list and I saw Timba's name, I just had to sit and calm myself down first and think about it. Every single thing I promised myself at the beginning of the season, and you guys can go back to the beginning when I started at the beginning of the season, that I'm going to try and be a little bit more rational and not get too emotional when I go into these discussions on lives, because I've been getting quite emotional and fired up when I don't agree with something. I wanted to always try and first and foremost to put myself in the shoes of the actual coaches and the selectors. Well, the coaches are the selectors. Ultimately, at the moment, we don't really have a selection panel. So I remember Rob saying this in the press conference. I was actually present at the press conference where he said that he's dropping them because of performances, like he said here, and he's going to give them another opportunity to come in and show that they've grown their games. If they haven't grown their games, then they'll be out of the side again, because they want to play the game obviously in a certain way with higher strike rates. Now, with the experienced players out, I can understand why they're going with experience in. Yes, they've mixed it up with youngsters too, because of the ones that they think probably will be great. I don't think it's the older guys for the younger guys. I think they wanted to integrate these youngsters, like Dierwald, for example, before the announcement was there, where they said they're going to arrest the more older guys. I think someone like Riley Rousseau's absence or injury has given an opportunity maybe to do what they said they're going to do, and give maybe a Temba an opportunity, or give a Rassi an opportunity now, because you're now missing another experienced player now due to injury that's going to be out for a long time. So if you are looking for an experienced person in that top order, because otherwise we can just go with younger players, and we're going to have such an inexperienced top six that's going to play against Australia, who's like a very, very good team, of course. I mean, the T20 World Champions. So it's not something that it's something that we have to also think about with regards to that. But Luba, where do you stand with this? Because in our best side, I don't see Rassi and Temba in it if we pick from our best players. But in this scenario, does it make sense to you?
If you remember, for me, I've never been a fan of having both Nasi and Timma in the side, but having listened to Rob right now, I think it kind of makes sense. I think it's two things. The first one is that he had spoken to them, he told them what they needed to go and do, so they went to go and do it. So now he felt, because they had that agreement that you will go and do this, then we'll give you another chance. Then he felt that he needed to give them a chance, and now was the best time for him to give them that chance, because he's resting basically his whole top four. You don't have Klaassen, you don't have Queenie, you don't have Riley. So, and those are guys who've been scoring runs, and those are guys who are experienced. So I don't think any coach would like to go into a series against Australia with a very, very, very young side. As much as Rob wants to have the youngsters on the side, he also wants to try and balance things out. So I think it kind of makes sense. I wouldn't have Temba and Rassie in my T20 side, but I understand why he has them, and it makes sense to me.
And also, Temba hasn't played in a long time.
Yeah.
So I see
Another thing
Lawrence
is,
saying here as well. Yeah, actually, it's a good time to actually pull up this. Don't think people should get emotional about Temba selected for the T20 squad. He missed 5 months in the off season while other guys play T20 leagues. Okay, so that's what I was about to say. Is he hasn't really played much cricket either. So before a World Cup, you want to get him as much game time as possible, obviously, to get into the team.
yes, that's true. I think it's for the guys that haven't been playing any T20 cricket, any leagues. It is important that they get as much game time as they can, and obviously with the approach that Temba has in ODIs lately, playing T20 cricket should be valuable for him. Just time in the middle is very important. So yeah, I also agree with what Lawrence is saying there.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So let's get back into this as well.
Thanks, Ken. Telford?
Thanks, Lucy. How's Rob?
Hi, Telford.
Hi. You have a background in fitness and cricket, and of course now you're a coach. So I wonder what you make of the change in CSA's fitness policy and how it's going to be enforced. You know that it's not going to be enforceable that someone who fails a fitness test misses a game. And you know there's a perfect example in somebody like Susanda Magala, who is your top ODI bowler this year, but has struggled to make the fitness test. So where do you land on the change it seems to be in CSA's fitness policy? Are you happy as a coach and maybe unhappy as a fitness guy, or where are you?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to speak about. I see they brought it up in the press conference. Let me just quickly go through that with you guys so that you guys know what has happened. It's fitting that Talford actually spoke about it in the what is happening here now? No, I don't want updates. Bye bye. I don't know why cricket. Sorry, Luva. Cricket Info is giving me. They want me to click on updates for the show, and I don't want to give any updates. Okay, so this quickly to give you guys. I'm going to read it out quickly to you guys. So CSA is going to be less rigid. This is from Fidos on Cricket Info. Players who fail the 2 kilometer run within the stipulated time and whose skin folds are above recommended levels can still play internationally. Cricket South Africa will no longer apply fitness standards as rigidly as earlier, so both the male and female athletes who fail to complete their 2 kilometer run in the required time, or those skin folds are above recommended measures, will still be permitted to play in the national coaches discretion, under the national coach's discretion. However, in a document circulated to players and seen by ESPN Cricinfo, CSA continues to strongly recommend that those who do not meet the minimum fitness standards should not take the field in an official match. The coaches concerned are Rob Walter, Shukri Conrad, and Hilton Marang. We had a medical conference in June, and we decided to allow the medical team to work out a better way forward. We recognized we need a level of flexibility. We also trust the coaches to make the right decisions as they know the environment, said Enoch Nkwe to ESPN Cricinfo. The change came after obviously Dana Vanike, Susana Magala, Lazal Lee, everything that happened there. For the 2023-24 season, the fit to play standard remains the same for the national men's and women's players. Male players have to run 2 kilometers in under 8.30 minutes and have an overall skin fold count of 85 millimeters or less. And women have to complete the same distance under 9 minutes 30 with skin folds at 100 millimeters or less. The men's provincial players will be held to the same standard as the international players, while the women's domestic players have some leeway and must run 2 kilometers in 10.15 minutes or under with skin folds measuring less than 120 millimeters. I don't foresee any challenges in terms of players not passing the test, says Nkwe. CSA has also created an elite standard for players who run 2 kilometers in under 7.45 minutes for men and under 9 minutes for women, and will aim to encourage and drive all professional players to reach elite standards. There is no indication of whether there is an additional incentive for excellence. That is what is ultimately expected of players. And Kwe said, we want to live in the lane of excellence. There is a um, different thinking now. So I see they've kind of moved on from what it initially was. So let's first listen to what Rob has to say about it, and then we can maybe comment on that, Lubabalo, and speak about the issues.
I suppose you never get rid of your fitness roots, but look, from my point of view, is I think it's, I suppose, the oldest cliche in the book. It's really about following a process. For me, it's a process of getting guys fitter and up to standard. And everyone, one of the things that I have with the team is an obsession with getting better. So I expect everyone in the team to look to get better. And it's our job as support staff to support them in those endeavors. So, Sisanda on the park has been electric for us in the last recent period. And we want to acknowledge those performances, but we want to acknowledge, as I said, him along with everyone else, our endeavors to get better, to get fitter, to get stronger, because it gives us a better chance of performing. So, I hope that answers the question, but certainly, our job is to provide the platform for these guys to improve and get better.
So not necessarily saying, Lubabalo, that they're not going to be strict with the fitness. They're just saying they're going to be a little bit more lenient with regards to which players do get selected or not, and who's going to be given that leeway based on performances, etc. What do you think of that? Because we did have a discussion about it when around Dana Finikek and when she wasn't selected, etc.
Firstly, I think CSA, like I wrote a piece not so long ago that CSA should just stand firm on their decision to enforce this fitness rules, because I believe that it's professional fitness people that came up with the standards. I remember a lot of people were questioning, why must they run? They play cricket, they bowl. But at the end of the day, we are not fitness specialists. We might not we might think it's not important to run a 2 kilometer or whatsoever, but the people who specialize in fitness know. So for me, this comes across as CSA just trying to say, because they're saying they still hope coaches are going to enforce it. It's like CSA is just saying we still want to have this, but because of the backlash that that was there, they're just trying to put it in the coaches' court. Like the coaches must decide. So I'm sure they're hoping that coaches don't let things go. For me, I think they should have just kept their voice and said, we as CSA are saying this is the fitness standard. You either meet it or you don't. I know it's hard for players, but I know someone like Sisanda Makala worked really hard to try and pass his fitness test, and I feel that should be the thing. You fail a fitness test, you try hard to pass that fitness test so that you can make the team. But another thing, I think a lot of us are assuming that just because of the statement that was released, we're assuming that now suddenly people are going to expect are going to be now we're expecting people to play even if they're not even fit at all. But I don't think that's the case. I think fitness will still be important. I think they will still look at fitness, and I think the coaches will still enforce that fitness standard. I don't think the coaches are going to be too lenient, because we all know how important it is to be fit in a cricket field. So yeah, for me, I think it's not a great decision, but I back our coaches to not let things fall off.
Yeah. I guess there can be maybe certain exceptions in certain cases, but I mean, I see a comment here by Lorenzo that I actually agree with. Fitness levels or programs should be player specific. You can't have standardized program for all players. A player like Magala is definitely not as fit as Miller, for example. So I can understand standardized tests. What I think they should be doing is actually giving them goals, saying, look here, you can't expect them to suddenly run a 2 kilometer, if they've never hit that mark, to suddenly change now, they must do it now in the next test. Give them like a 6 month plan and say by in 6 months or to a year you need to be able to meet the standard. We're going to allow you to play, but at the end of the year you need to reach the standard, or by the next series or by this series, X series, you need to get up to that level. At least there's a program or a way forward or a plan with each player, because not everybody's going to be as fit as everybody else. But I did like that they had a standardized fitness and they're clamping down on it. So maybe they think at the moment that there aren't as many players that are not meeting the test, and maybe they can take off. They take their foot off the pedal a little bit. But I think rather keep the strictness. But the coaches being completely the way these coaches think as well. I mean, particularly Rob, with regards to his strictness around. I've heard from players that he's very strict on fitness and he's very strict on strength and conditioning and stuff like that. So having a coach like him involved in this will obviously make sure that the standards do stay high. So yeah, let's move on.
Thanks, Telford. So here.
How's it, Rob? Just clarify that one. The question of Ken, was that referring to Dearborn batting in the middle or in T20 cricket as well?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and then just follow up on the Wonder squad. It's a fairly largely tried and tested squad, just about a month out of the World Cup. But with Stubbs and Brevis, there's that bit of a shootout for the two youngsters going into the World Cup?
Yeah, look, it may be. There's obviously a bit of water to pass under the bridge before that final squad gets announced. And we did want, our last camp as well as the T20 series to roll out before we finalize that squad. I mean, anything can happen in that time. But as you said, the 95% of it is pretty much tried and tested, and then potentially an opportunity for a bit of younger flair in there.
Okay. Perfect opportunity now, Robert, for us to talk maybe about that, because there was a constant debate on this channel, particularly around those two youngsters. Obviously, Tristan Stubbs and Diego Brevis. Which one do you take with to the World Cup? I've always had the opinion that where we are at the moment with regards to amount of games played domestically, I think that also should take precedent over the others. Now, Diego hasn't really played much List A. I can understand him getting an opportunity in T20 cricket and getting an opportunity to play there, and also because the World Cup is further out, he can obviously have more opportunities to play internationally. But with the World Cup right now, to put that pressure on a youngster like Dewald, to play in a new role in List A cricket as well, where he hasn't really played much for the Titans in List A cricket, would be a little bit of a big gamble compared to trusting someone like Tristan Stubbs, who actually had a great List A season for the Warriors. So between the two of them, who do you think should take the precedent over the other?
I'd take both to the World Cup, to be honest. I know a lot of people are probably going to be angry at me for this, but I wouldn't take Reza Hendricks to the World Cup. Yeah, he did well in T20s, and yeah, it was sad what happened to him in the T20 World Cup. But I don't think we should be making things right using the 50 over World Cup, because he's a different player there. You can look at his numbers, you can break them down as much as you want, but he hasn't dishing out any performances in ODIs consistently. So for me, I'd take both Brevis and Stubbs. For me, when it comes to World Cups, I always like to have more than one player that I'd say most teams don't know anything about. Considering the fact that Brevis and Stubbs almost can play the same role. But remember also, Brevis can also be an opener when you need that firepower up at the top. Because for me, Queenie, when it comes to World Cups, I'm hoping this coming World Cup we'll see a different Quinton de Kock. But for me, he's two different kinds of players. There's a different Queenie we see when we play or buy series or try series, and there's also different Queenie when we play World Cup. So for me, I think it wouldn't be a bad option to pick both Stubbs and Brevis, and then see how it goes.
Because I'm looking at, when I look at the team and putting together the team and looking at the squad, I don't see where they automatically fit into the first 11. When you have, for example, Rassi, Temba, Aiden, Quinton, you've got David Miller, Heinrich Klaassen. You have all of these players, Aiden Markram as well now, who's solidified his place kind of in the ODI. I think he still needs one more series to make it certain, and do well in it. But I mean, he's kind of, by the coach's standards, I think he is basically certain as an extra bowling option as well. So that top six is kind of already, really solidified. It's
But
about that 7-8 position or that 7 position that's maybe open still for shootout.
there's a
Um,
mistake I'm hoping we don't make here, Khalid. You remember what we did in the last World Cup? We had JP and AB bowling our fifth bowler overs, and it didn't work out. As much as Aiden Markram is a decent spinner, as much as Brevis is also a decent spinner, I wouldn't have both of them being my fifth bowler. I'd rather have Marco Janssen coming in at 7. So I agree with you. Marco, Brevis and Stubbs at the moment might not have a position in the starting 11, but I would still like to take them to the World Cup, even if they're not going to start, just to keep my options open. But like I said, the mistake I wouldn't make, I wouldn't pick Brevis and play him at 7 at the World Cup as my fifth bowling option, together with Aiden Makram. I can have the two of them if I already have an all-rounder at 7. I don't mind. But like you said, the top 6 for now looks set. But let's take them to the World Cup. Eventually,
I
they're
mean,
going to have to play in the World Cup.
and also, we mustn't fall into the trap as well as fans to compare players that are different to each other as well. I mean, I'd see Deerwoud and Stubbs as two completely different players. I don't see them as the same type of player at all. I think they offer completely different things with regards to bowling as well. They offer something completely different. The approach of the game is also different. So um, it's very. I see it often in sport. We often compare, like, we think that players are like for like just because they play in the same position, or they're filling a certain role. Different players offer different things, and we must respect the players for what they bring, and then try to see them adapt in their own way as well. So yeah, I mean, I
I
wouldn't
think,
mind having two youngsters like that, like in a World Cup, learning from the rest, and experiencing that early.
I think the one thing they have in common is that they're both quite strong. They can hit the
Yeah.
ball a long way. But yeah, they're not necessarily the same kind of player.
Hmm. Okay, let's continue with Rob's. It's quite long here.
Great, thanks. So here, Plasande again.
Thanks, Lucy. Rob, just on that World Cup, how difficult has it been to try and simulate World Cup preparation from just camps? Because it's been a hell of a long winter season, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, I mean, the one thing that we're pretty clear with each other about is you're never going to replicate World Cup pressure in the nets, and that's obvious. You're never going to replicate match intensity in the nets, but you're certainly trying your best to get there. So, we speak at length about trying to create the right type of environment that's got a bit of edge to it, create the right processes that we're following, that, when the pressure does arrive, of those moments in the World Cup, that we actually have spoken about them, at least rehearsed them a little bit, and that we've got something to fall back on when those moments arrive. So yeah, it's always a tough one, replicating that type of pressure and intensity, but certainly doing our best to try.
You can continue.
Thanks, Heinz.
How's Rob? Hope you're well. Talking about the young guns, are you also pretty impressed with how Tristan Stubbs is sort of like, I almost want to say, recovered from a difficult SA20, and a domestic campaign, going to Sri Lanka, and playing with lots of maturity, actually, and showing quite a bit of ability, in terms of the longer formats of the game. I almost wanted to say, even though even if it's in red ball or white ball cricket.
Yeah, I think we sometimes harshly critique the guys who do fulfill finishing roles, specifically in T20 cricket. I mean, it's the job is a thankless one. You're expected to come in and have a high strike rate right from the beginning. You're expected to clear the fence, and sometimes you just get a bad run of it. So for me, Tristan, as you said, in Sri Lanka, I was there obviously for all the one days. I mean, he was outstanding. He went in under pressure a couple of times in really tricky situations and conditions, and managed to bat the team out of trouble. and as you said, showed great maturity. Technically, he was excellent. So, I mean, I see Tristan. He's not only a finisher; he's a quality batter, and I think he's very versatile in what he does, as well as he bowls. He keeps wickets, so he's always dirty when he comes off the park. So, look, he's certainly a very versatile cricketer, and he adds a lot to the side. So, I'm looking forward to giving him a proper run in the T20s and. A batter like him is never far away from some good innings.
I like that. What he's saying there, Robalo, because he's not putting players against each other. He's kind of expressing what they bring, and they're going to give them an opportunity to show what they can bring. I think I like that approach and the way Rob's speaking. The one thing I can say is, this time around with our coaches, I like to listen to them speak in press conferences. They actually speak sense. It doesn't sound like they're just talking a whole lot of hogwash. Even if they make a decision that I don't agree with, they still give an explanation that makes sense. So whether I agree with it or not is kind of irrelevant, because I can say I disagree still, but at least there's an explanation for why they are doing it. So that if it goes wrong, then we can say, you said it's going to do X, that it didn't do X, or didn't did Y instead. So I like the fact that of the way they present themselves and the way they speak and give reasons for why they do what they do.
True. I agree. I think for me the big thing is, personally, I always say selection is not about who's better than who, but selection is about what one offers. It's about what the team needs. It's about combination. So I think a massive mistake that most of us tend to make when it comes to selection, we always assume that it's about who's better than who. So and so is better than who. But what does, like, for example, an example that I'd like to make, you might have the side that needs someone who can bowl, but you've got two batters in the side. Only one of them can bowl. The one who can't bowl averages 50 and probably has a strike rate of 200. You see, he's better than the guy who can bowl, but the team at the moment needs someone who can bowl, even if he averages 40. So it tells you that you need to go for the guy who averages 40 because he can bowl. He offers you what the team needs. So I think that's a massive mistake we tend to make when it comes to selection. We assume that when selectors select players, they look at them and say, well, this one is better than this one, so we go for this one. But there's a lot more involved when it comes to selection. It's combinations, it's what you bring to the table. Like he mentioned with Stubbs there, the fact that he can bowl, he can keep. He's also a really good fielder. So you can see that Stubbs gives you a lot of versatility in terms of the type of player that he is, which is something that's very important for me. And the other thing that they mentioned there is, or Rob mentioned there, is you can't replicate the pressure of a World Cup. It took me back to something that I was asking myself when you were reading the grounds that we're going to be playing the ODIs in, and I was surprised because none of those grounds, I'd say, are similar to what we'll find in India. So for me, that was surprising. I was hoping that in preparation for a World Cup, we probably may play. Maybe you come to PE. It's conditions that are slightly similar to what you'll find. Because I don't think we're gonna play on flat decks in India. We might get a few flatties here and there, but I think they went for, maybe they're just trying to look after their batters in terms of confidence, because in Bloemfontein, it's probably gonna rain runs.
Yeah, and I heard some rumors from some Indian journalists and friends that I have in India, that the ICC is going to put some strict rules in place with regards to trying their best to make those pitches a little bit more equal than what we expect in India. Now, also, I heard from Aditya, for example, told me that the pitches weren't turning as much actually in the IPL as we thought that it should. There are some fast wickets. There's some variations in India as well. So I hope we don't make the mistake that we only plan for spin tops, and we get there and none of the wickets turn. Then we're going to be in big trouble. So I hope that we do have a little bit of a balanced mindset as well.
We need to plan for everything. We need to plan for everything.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's move on.
Thanks, Lucy. How's it, Rob? Hope you're well. Just a follow up, I think, in part to what Zahir asked. is there ever the temptation, or perhaps how do you balance the temptation to give the quote-unquote tried and tested guys like Quinton de Kock, David Miller, in the T20 squad, in the T20 matches, so close to a World Cup, when you could at the same time give youngsters enough game time to see anyone who can play themselves into that 50 ODI squad going into the World Cup?
Yeah, I think the reality is you've sort of got to try and pick your times to give opportunity and understand, your tried and tested guys, how much do they actually need to be ready, given that they've got a, sort of a huge wealth of experience behind them. So they don't potentially need as much game time in order to get back on track or stay in form. So really it's about making sure that the more senior experienced guys are fresh mentally. They're busy cricketers these days, so they've got to be fresh mentally and ready to compete. And as much as West Indies in the 50 over space provided opportunity there, the T20s against Australia have provided opportunity for some younger players to come in and show their worth.
Yeah, that's
Thanks. Then we're going to go Johan next.
Hi, Rob. Who will be the bowling coach in this series? And is there any news on Eric going to the World Cup?
So, yeah, Eric's been involved with a couple of camps, as you know, during the winter period. We're hopeful that he'll be involved in the Aussie series as well as the World Cup. So that's certainly what we're pushing for and aiming towards.
Thanks, Johan. Telford?
Rob, can you bring us up to speed on Keshav Maharaj's
Here we go.
recovery? I'm sure he's been militant about his rehab, but how confident are you that he's good to go?
Yeah, look, he's done exceptionally well to this point. As we've said, he's ahead of where we thought he would be, which is awesome. No in short measure to the work that he's been putting in. So things look positive, but it's very difficult to sort of guesstimate this last portion of his recovery and being sort of match ready and taking what you look like on the practice field into a match scenario. So we actually saw the T20, given that the lesser load, in terms of overs bowled, etc., and time on feet, as a great opportunity just to test out and see where he's at. But we've still got 2 weeks before that arrives, and so we've got a camp to get through. And look, I'm sort of secretly and quietly hopeful that he'll be ready for those T20s. Look, and if not, then we set our attention to the 50 overs and we just take it, bit by bit. But he's doing everything he can, the support staff as well, and things look positive at this stage.
Like I said to you guys, I did speak to him at the CSA Awards off camera. I didn't do a interview with him. I didn't want to bother him because I knew everybody's going to want to get a piece of Keshav and ask him about his injury. But he told me that he's feeling good and he's feeling on track. So I don't know. Most players are going to say that, but I mean, normally he's really quite honest with me. So seeing that he's in the squad and they're trying to push for that third T20I, that maybe could be something that we can be positive about and happy about, because a lot of us were a bit worried about that, Lubo.
Yeah, definitely. Having Cash is going to be key, even though when it comes to ODIs, I prefer Beyond for Retain. But I think having both in the side will still be a big bonus for the side, for the team, because as much as they bowl with the same hand, they are two different type of bowlers. So each one gives you something different. So yeah, and Keshav was also vastly experienced. Having someone like him, he's also captain the side. So that means having him in the squad, you also have an extra leader.
Yeah, at least it gives us hope for the test series at the end of the year, because that's what we were mainly worried about, if Kesh is going to be available for that. So at least now this is very positive news with regards to that. Okay, let's move.
Thanks, Telford. Ken?
Thanks, Lucy. Rob, I think it's 19 guys in your ODI squad and only 3 matches. It's going to be very difficult to play everyone, or is it more a case of this is kind of like a camp environment that you're setting up, that you've got all the guys to work with, and some of them won't necessarily play in the series, as you've mentioned, the more experienced guys?
Yeah, look, there's obviously 19 in the ODI squad, and 50 or 16 in the T20s with Keshev to come in for game 2 and 3. And the 19 guys will be involved in the camp that happens next week. And then obviously a reasonably large portion of those 19 are involved in the 20s. So, yeah, I mean, not everyone's going to get an opportunity. It's more about giving the younger guys a chance and giving them a run, and getting some international experience under the belt. And we kind of have an idea of what the other guys have to offer. So, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you can never give guys enough chances, but we certainly are planning to give as many as we can to the guys that we feel need them.
Okay, so they still gonna be giving guys opportunity in the series. That's a massive risk. Some people might think, because some people think that we should be playing, a lot more games, and obviously heading into this World Cup. So that it's interesting that Rob said that in the ODIs he's going to give some of the youngsters opportunity because he knows what the others offer. What do you think of that?
I think I don't know. I'm caught in two minds when it comes to this because I don't like losing to the Australians. So I don't want Rob to mess around with the team too much that the team loses its balance and then we end up losing. But at the same time, I'm keen to see youngsters getting an opportunity to showcase what they can do. Hopefully it goes well. Because yeah, I think for him, he already knows the guys that he wants to take to the World Cup, and maybe only has the question marks around a few of them. So yeah, I don't think giving youngsters a chance to play is a big problem. But then it also depends on the number of matches we have building up to the World Cup, because you don't want to waste time playing guys that you won't take to the World Cup. Instead of giving guys you are taking to the World Cup time to spend in the middle. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. It is indeed.
Thanks, Ken. Percival?
Thank you so much, Lucy. Good afternoon, Coach. Coach, can I just ask you just back on Mr. Brevis? Can I ask you, I'm not sure if you had conversations with him yet, or either what would your conversations be with a young player like himself? Because there's already a lot of expectations around him, him already being affectionately known as a baby AB. Now that's a lot of pressure on a young player like that.
Why did that question have to come up?
With him in the build-up in the next couple of months? Secondly, can you please say something about your new debutants as well? And what does the cohesion camp entail?
Okay, there's
a lot of questions there.
Yeah, look, certainly I won't be calling him baby AB. We will leave AB to be AB.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, I think
smash a like, guys.
His expectation. Look, he's a young guy who doesn't get flat by much, and he's a fairly grounded young guy. So for me, it's actually just creating an environment for him to express himself. You can expect a young guy like himself to sort of knock his head a couple of times as he manages his way through international cricket. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to giving him an opportunity and a platform, to do what I said, to express himself and show what he's capable of. He's already had experience in a number of different leagues. He's, rubbed shoulders with a lot of top professionals in the game. So yeah, he's like a sponge really. And I think he's just excited to get on the park, to be honest. What was your next question?
What does the cohesion
cohesion camps? I suppose it is what the word says. It's really just about trying to get together and just continually look to form a cohesive unit. I think the reality of our environment these days is our guys are playing in 5 to 6 different environments throughout the year. We've got exposure to different people and different specialists. And also, not spending a hell of a lot of time together. And when you get together, you only have a short span of time before you start competing as the Proteas. So for us, it's just, again, creating a platform for our players to connect with each other. We understand that, when the pressure moments arrive, it's probably our connection with each other that's going to hold us up. So the more opportunity we can do to create that, the better. And it's also great just to get on the same page in terms of how we want to play the game and what it looks like to be a Protea. So that's essentially what a cohesion camp is.
Luba, as a coach, can you maybe give me some insight into that, on what he's trying to explain over there?
I think, when it comes to a team environment, it's always important to try and get everyone to gel and understand each other. So I understand what he means, that they spend a lot of time away on playing different teams. So that means they get exposed to different playing cultures. They get exposed to different team environments as well. So I'm assuming the purpose of the camp that they're going to have is just for them to establish a sort of team bond within them, to establish an understanding in terms of how they want to play their cricket, and in terms of how they want to keep their whole environment. I think it's mainly about just trying to get them to gel as human beings first, then they can gel easily as cricketers on the field,
Yeah,
because you
I
can't
mean,
really separate human being from the player. They are
yeah.
one and the same thing.
Yeah, at least, yeah, I like the idea. I like that they're putting something like this in place to get them on the same page. At least they can understand each other's philosophy and the way they want to play and the style they want to play, and actually get to know each other a lot better. What makes them each other tick? What makes each other pissed off? What makes them happy? Whatever the case may be. So you can actually get that competition, but healthy competition going as well, amongst each other as a team, and grow as a team. I always say that team sports are, it's so important that you are cohesive with amongst each other and understand each other. That it's not a whole team of individuals playing a team game. It's rather that you're all on the same page, you're going towards one common goal. So I do like that they're doing things like this. It's something new from what we heard from the past. So yeah. Okay, let's get this finished. I'm gonna try to go through. If there's any question, guys, that we think is just a lame question, I'm not gonna really go in depth. If the answer this answers it for me.
Great, thanks. We're going to start.
Lucy?
Yeah, sure.
Did I miss
I just
one?
want to say something about the debutants, please.
The debutants, yeah. Look, I guess Donovan Ferreira, again, he's been involved in a lot of league cricket. Most recently was in the Zim Afro T10. One of the areas in our batting that we really want to pay attention to is the finishing and the ability to clear the fence in a finishing role. And Donovan's been identified as someone who can do that. He's also very versatile, much like Tristan Stubbs. He can bowl off spin, he can keep wicket. Wonderful fielder. He's done well for the Titans the last couple of seasons. So, he provides a specific skill set that we're looking to grow in our stocks. Matthew Breska for us right now is sort of a top order cover. Again, he's been a wonderful performer domestically, performed well in the SA20. And as much as I've only seen a handful of knocks from him and some footage, all the coaches on my support staff as well as Shukri speak very highly of him as a young batter in our system that can certainly go on to do great things internationally. So we're looking forward to that. You spoke about there's Gerald in the T20 space. I think guys have seen him do his bit in Test cricket and one-day cricket already, as well as in the leagues domestically and internationally. So again, a great opportunity to give him a run in the T20 space for his country. He's earned it.
Okay, let's talk about those debutants quickly, Lubalo, because as we go towards the end of the show, I think that's he's answered basically majority of the things that I know that I can think of. I don't think the last 4 minutes is really going to be that intriguing with regards to that. I think let's talk about the debutants now, because I think that's a very big point. There was one particular selection that I was surprised that wasn't with the players that are out of the ODI side, or out of the sides. I was a bit surprised that someone like Tony, who's had a decent amount of who has had a decent time in the domestic cricket in this day, that someone like Keane hasn't given another opportunity. He only got 2 opportunities and nothing else. But when I look at it as well, it's about the roles, where Tony's going to play and who they picked for the ODI side. So I can fully understand it. In T20 cricket, he hasn't necessarily been the same player, so I can understand that too, with the players that are injured. Oh, the players that are rested, sorry. Let me ask you about Matthew Brzezinski. I was extremely happy when I saw his name, because I've been waiting for him to play for the Proteas for quite some time. Whether he's going to get opportunity to play or not is another thing. That's something that we're going to have to wait and see. But what is your thoughts on Don, on Bretsky, on Gerald? I mean, Gerald is kind of a no-brainer, I think, with regards to the pace that he bowls at. With regards to that alone, we don't really have many players that can clock 150 in South African cricket at the moment. So this guy's been doing it consistently across formats, by clocking 150, 145, 140. So what's your thoughts on the debutants that were selected?
For me, I think I hope Matt gets a chance to play. He's exciting to watch. I was really mad when the Durban franchise didn't play him for so long, even though they needed an extra better. I think I hope he gets a game. He's someone who's exciting to watch. He's a really good batsman. And on his day, he's definitely one of those batsmen that can hurt your side. Donovan, I think anyone who's been friends with me on social media, who's followed me enough, will know how I've always been rooting for the Don. And I was lucky enough to watch him live when they were here for USA, and wow, the guy scored 100, and I don't even remember how he scored it. That's how quickly it was. He's someone who's very destructive as well. Like Rob said, he brings something as well. Like Tristan Stubbs, he's a gun fielder. He can bowl some filthy off spin. He can keep wickets, and he's definitely someone who doesn't waste time. He doesn't necessarily need time to get going. So I think he's also someone who's going to be exciting to see, and see how he gets going. Gerald, we've seen him. We know how fast he bowls, and I like the fact that he offers a bit with the bat as well. He can hit a long ball, so he's also definitely someone you can groom to be your number 7 as well. I think he has the tools to be a decent number 7, or a decent number 8. Someone who can come in and bowl 10 full overs, and then who can sort of finish games for you at 8 as well. Who am I leaving out? Who's the other
Gerald.
one?
Gerald.
No, I just spoke about Gerald now. It's Gerald.
Gerald, Don, and Bretsky.
Yeah, I spoke about Matthew Britsky.
So I think that's the only ones.
Yeah, Brevis, I don't have to say anything about
Yeah,
him.
yeah, we've already spoken.
But something that you touched on, I was surprised not to see Tony, because I think after 2 matches you don't expect to get dropped. But like again, I'm hoping, because I know the kind of coach that Rob is, he probably would have had a conversation with Tony, and they both understand why he was not picked again, and he knows what he needs to do, or he knows what needs to happen. So for me, as long as there's these conversations between coach and players, it doesn't really mean it doesn't matter much. The problem is when players get picked and dropped, but nothing is said to them. You sort of leave them in the wilderness. They don't know what they did wrong. They don't know what they need to do right. They don't, like, they've got no idea of what went wrong. And only after 2 matches you can't really say someone went wrong. You see, so for me, if the conversations are happening between the coach and the players, that's good. But if the conversations are not happening, I hope they happen soon, so that players can understand where they stand.
Yeah. Guys, I want to give you guys an opportunity, because I didn't get into your live chat today, your live comments about this team. I didn't get to read them out on the show. So tomorrow I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to speak about the team, about this team in depth. I'll read out all your comments. We can go into depth and into some of the players. I want to hear your opinions so that I can show your comments on the show as well. So we'll go in a little bit more of an in-depth discussion tomorrow on specifics. We can maybe discuss what your 11 would be against Australia. Let's do a little exercise tomorrow where you guys get to give you guys your opinions on each player and players that you'd like to see. Luba, thanks for coming on the show. You gave some excellent insight. Guys, please smash a like for Luba's comments today, because he was brilliant on the show today. And I really enjoyed having you on again and chatting to you. To all the guys out there, thanks a lot for tuning in and watching the show today. We gave you the specifics and what Rob had to say. tomorrow I'll give you guys an opportunity to share your teams, your 11s, and let me know what you think about each individual player, so that we can give you guys 100% opinion. This show is about giving you guys, for you guys to be able to give your opinions as freely, as openly as possible, because there aren't many places for us fans to actually speak about our mind about things. I know a lot of us will probably disagree with each other. I mean, me and Luba don't agree on every single little thing, but it's a place where we can actually converse and discuss and actually see other people's point of views, as well as seeing and maybe educating each other about the game. Maybe there's something that some of us know more about than others, and then etc. So let's do that. Let's have a discussion tomorrow. Bring your 11s to the show. I'll show it on the screen and we can discuss that a little bit further. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment and share, and subscribe to the channel, of course. And click that notification bell for all future videos. And also don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is in the description. To all of you guys out there, enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace out.